You're very welcome along to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. We're back once again. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by the regular duo of Mark O'Hare and Adrian Clarke, and a duo that sort of kicked it out of the park over the weekend and very close to sensational results. One goal off both their long shots, which is very unfortunate. Mark had Everton and both teams to score away to Leicester, but Adrian, you'd Arsenal and under 3.5 goals at a juicy old 5.6. I can't remember the exact price, but heartbreaking stuff. But it's great having the Barclays back, isn't it? Not a needle back. It's just brilliant, isn't it?
So good. So good. Like, love the beef. Just saying off air about it, just reminds me of the Arsenal Man United era. I would love the rivalry to come close to that over the coming seasons. It was a much better game than expected. So many storylines. Yeah, really cruel on Arsenal. Obviously, practically the last kick of the match they conceded and that long shot didn't come off. But yeah, I wasn't really thinking about the long shot at the time. But I think it's clear for all to see that Arsenal have Manchester City rattled. They've got under the skin, and Arsenal are back. They're serious contenders, and it feels absolutely magnificent. So yeah, let's hope that this is the start of a long-running rivalry.
Yeah, Mark, what were your takes on the game? Because we got the best of both worlds. We got the needle, we got the entertainment in the first half, and I think I think most people were happy with how the neutrals, that is, and how the game turned out.
Yeah, fantastic. Went way above my expectations after the last two meetings last year, which were pretty dull, but interesting in terms of a sort of tactical element. But it went beyond my expectations. Really enjoyed it as a neutral game of the season so far. Had everything in it, really. A bit of controversy, some great goals, and obviously a bit of theatre there at the end. Obviously didn't work out the way you guys wanted, but I think you would have taken that pre-game anyhow. So it sets Arsenal up brilliantly for the season, and obviously now with Rodri being injured for Man City, that's another spanner in the works for their title defence too. So some fascinating subplots come out of it, and I'm already looking forward to the reverse game at Emirates Stadium, because there's been a lot of bad beef after that game, a lot of sort of talking from both sides. So already looking forward to the reunion whenever that is, probably New Year time.
Yeah, we're in for a decent title race here. We also have the hope of maybe Liverpool being in that title race, and Chelsea are priced as fourth favourites at the moment and have been impressive. We'll get to those teams as we look at the four marquee games. If you're new here, we do pick four marquee Premier League games every week. The guys do their any other bets, EFL, European sections, long shots, and best bets. All bets are recapped on insights.matchbook.com. All we ask is you to hit that like button and follow or subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. And there is going to be a £5 podcast bet builder money back special once again this week. This time will be focused on our marquee game, which we picked out as Manchester United versus Tottenham. So let's take a look at that game first. It's United versus Tottenham, Sunday 4:30, and the prices on Matchbook currently are United 2.42 favourites with Spurs 2.96. The draw is 3.95. Both teams to score yes. I mean, look at these prices. 1.43 yes, no is 3.2. The Asian handicap line sees Spurs get a quarter goal head start. The goal line here is set at 3.5, but very close to 50-50. Unders favoured at 1.83. So Mark, I might start with you, because I sat down and watched Manchester United in the Europa League last night, and I don't think many people would have been impressed. So I was quite surprised to see you putting up here. I know it's a price thing, but would you have concerns on that Europa League game, and how much would you weight that versus maybe the Palace first half performance in particular that they did on Saturday?
I weight it a lot less. There were changes, and FC Twente, it's a huge occasion for them as an away team. I don't think it's a priority for Manchester United right now. As we know, there's an extended league phase now in European competition. So, it's not, maybe the pressure's not quite on Manchester United right now in Europe, where it probably is in the Premier League. And I was actually very impressed by what they did at Selhurst Park last weekend. They played above my pre-match expectations, especially in that first half. 13 shots, so an XG of close to 1.7. They hit the crossbar twice. Dean Henderson had to make a number of fine saves as well. That's in the first half alone. But they did run out of gas a little bit in the last half hour, indebted to Andre Nana making a couple of saves himself. But there is still obviously that air of unpredictability about United. But I do think they are starting to move in the right direction of travel. There have been improvements in both boxes. And I do think they are worth a shout this weekend at the prices and at the lines. What I've seen so far defensively has been a huge improvement on last year. Not a huge surprise with Lisandro Martinez now back at centre half, and he's obviously had upgrades either side of him as well. But I think individually and collectively they do look stronger. They do look well set up, and I think Ugarte might come back in, or might come into the side now for a start this weekend, and will upgrade that midfield too. So in terms of defence, they've kept 3 clean sheets in 5 now in the Premier League. Only 5 sides have faced fewer shots. The corner count for the opposition is right down. The shot count for the opposition is right down. And in going forward, they've actually created the 3rd highest expected goals figure. But they scored just 5 goals from 9.6 xG. So they're doing a lot right. And therefore, I'm prepared to give them an opportunity to support them this weekend, because we are able to get them on side +0 on the Asian handicap at 181, which is the same as draw no bet. And I like that price. Obviously, the market is basically saying Spurs are slightly a better side if this match was played at neutral territory. And I don't really disagree with that, but this game isn't taking place at Wembley or anywhere else like that. It's taking place at Old Trafford, and Tottenham's road record for quite some time now has been disastrous. And I wasn't quite aware how poor they have been away from home under Ange Postecoglou. If you exclude last season's bottom 4, it's 3 away wins in 17 away fixtures for Spurs in the Premier League under Postecoglou. In 12 of those 17 games, they've conceded 2 goals or more. That's not good enough. And if you look at their record in the last 15 away games, which kind of goes back to November-ish time, of all the ever-present sides, no side's picked up fewer away points from Spurs, just 14 from those 15 games. And that is a concern. I know they came to the party last week against Brentford, produced their best performance of the season after falling behind so early on. It looked like a potential banana skin pre-game. But yeah, that's the first time they've beaten a side not in the relegation zone since 13th of April. So things aren't going swimmingly for Spurs. We've seen them play very well, but not get the results at Leicester and Newcastle already this season. But basically, this comes down to me wanting to oppose Tottenham away from home in what I feel is a tougher game than perhaps the market is suggesting right now. I think United are moving in the right direction. I am prepared to give them a chance here with a 0 start, knowing the draw is on my side at 1.8.
Okay, yeah, Adrian, I wasn't overly aware of them, how bad Spurs' away record was under Ange Postecoglou, and I thought that stat stood out there, taking what was it from Mark, taking last season's bottom 4, that all of a sudden they've only got those 3 wins in 17 games.
Yeah, they just don't keep clean sheets either, do they? So that's a big issue for them on the road. Yeah, I would echo Mark on the Manchester United draw no bet, or double chance, whichever way you want to do it. I think they've got a great chance of picking up at least a point, potentially 3 here against Tottenham, who concede multiple goals away from home too often, don't they? I've written a piece actually this week on United's improvements. Out of possession, it's kind of unrecognisable. If you watch United now, they're much more compact. The defence is squeezing up. De Ligt and Martinez, I think, is a good partnership in the making. The 2 fullbacks are in excellent form. That they recover possession very, very well. And the gaps between the defence and the midfield have been shrunk quite massively. Part of that over the last 2 games might have been because Eriksen played. They've made themselves more compact. But yeah, certainly harder to create against. Mark was right. 10 shots they face on average so far this season. Last year, it was 17.6 shots per game. So they're getting almost halved it already this season. Onana is being called upon much less. And the other thing is that they're having a lot more of the ball. Last year, it only had the majority of possession in 18 of 38 games. They've had it in all 5 so far. So that gives them control, and control is part of the process. So they're harder to score against for sure. So although Mark's gone on Manchester United, I'm going to offer up something else, and then we'll maybe put it together for a bet builder. So I'm going to go with under 4.5 because of Manchester United's significant improvements in their off the ball work. In terms of winning it back, by the way, they rank second in the division for ball recoveries for possession 1. They rank second for in the defensive third, in the middle third as well. They're third for tackles 1, and they're top for interceptions. Now you might think, okay, so what? Well, last year they were strictly mid-table. All of their rankings in those categories were between 9th and 13th. So big improvements. And I think that they can limit Tottenham's threat to a degree in this game. I'm going to pair it with Bruno Fernandes to score as a fun one. So if you go for under 4.5 and Bruno Fernandes to score, it's 5.25, which is lovely. Why Bruno Fernandes? Well, no one's had more shots this season without scoring than Bruno Fernandes. 17 so far. He's racked up quite some XG, just shy of 2 as well in terms of his expected goals. So he's kind of due one, and we know that he's a very good penalty taker. He's got a good record against Spurs. He scores 3 times in the fixture before. And yeah, I can see a penalty potentially in this game. Chris Kavanagh is the ref. I won't say where he was brought up, but it wasn't too far from Old Trafford. I'm sure that won't influence him. I don't believe he is a United fan, but fans will beat that stick. I'm just chucking it out there. Chris Kavanagh did give 9 penalties last year in 20 matches. He was among the sort of leaders in terms of giving pens. I don't think he's given one so far this season. So maybe he's due one, and I would expect Bruno to take it. So yeah, look, it's under 4.5. Bruno Fernandes to score 5.25.
As someone who has had Bruno Fernandes on his fantasy team throughout the season, he has had a lot of chances to score goals. So maybe he is more than due. So we're going to lock in that with under 4.5 goals and use some of Mark's bet there. So Manchester United double chance on the bet builder, 6.0. And that is our official £5 money back special. Back this bet with Matchbook, and you will have a free bet in your account Monday morning if the bet loses up to £5. So that's just basically Manchester United double chance, under 4.5 goals, Bruno Fernandes. All you have to do is put that in yourself on the Bet Builder product on Matchbook, and you'll have a risk-free bet for Sunday's primetime game. Let's go all the way back and start in race card order then. Saturday, 12:30, Newcastle versus Manchester City. What a game this is. Newcastle 5.4. City 165 favourites. The draw is 4.7. Both teams to score, yes, 1.6 favoured. The Asian handicap line gives Newcastle a 1-goal head start, and the total for this game, 3.5 favoured with unders, but that's at 173. So, Adrian, I'll chuck this back at you. I mean, Newcastle have been poor throughout the season, I would say, more or less most of the season. But it's St. James's Park factor, and that's the big theme from you guys last season, and I don't think much has changed for this season.
No, this is a tough fixture. It's a really hard fixture. I think performance levels from Newcastle have been way below the standards that they are capable of. There's no doubt about that. Look at the form of Isak and Gordon. You know, it's diminished compared to last year, but it doesn't mean they're bad players. I think they just haven't hit really their stride yet. They've relied, haven't they, on Harvey Barnes to deliver. And Harvey Barnes is one of the most informed forwards in the Premier League. You can't say otherwise. You know, goals and assists at a very, very prolific rate. And that actually dates all the way back to the start of last season. Since he joined Newcastle, only 4 players have had direct goal involvements at a faster rate than Barnes. And you might know who they are: Haaland, Salah, Cole Palmer, and Michael Olise. So it's now at Bayern Munich. So, you know, when he plays, Harvey Barnes delivers. So he's someone to keep your eye on this weekend. But yeah, you talk about the St. James's Park factor. They're unbeaten in their last 10 Premier League home games, won 6, drew 4. City were the last side to beat them. That was in January, 3-2, and that was a bit of a classic. It was a late goal that I think won it. Yeah, it was a couple of late goals, I think, for Manchester City that turned that around. So like they came close to winning that game. They've also scored in each of their last 21 Premier League home games, which dates back a long, long time. So with Rodri injured, and actually with taking off the Arsenal blinkers, you know, in terms of their performance against Arsenal's 10 men, I thought it was bang average. I really did. I didn't think they had many ideas. There wasn't a lot of bravery on the ball. They weren't impressive. They were brilliant in the first 20 minutes, absolutely superb. But after that, I didn't think City played at all well. And with Rodri out, it might be the right time to oppose them. That's all I'm saying. Obviously, they're favourites for a reason. They're a class act. But St. James's Park away, for the reasons I've just outlined, is a tough fixture. And if there is a hangover with this injury, then this might be the chance to oppose them. So I'm looking at Newcastle double chance, but I don't want that alone. I definitely want to pair it with both teams to score. I just said Newcastle scored in 21 consecutive home games in the Premier League. Well, City have scored in each of their last 31 Premier League games against Newcastle. It's the longest run of consecutive goals against an opponent in the competition's history. City always score against Newcastle. So I think both teams to score is strong. And yeah, by pairing it with Newcastle double chance, you get a 3.0. So that appeals to me because I think it's one of very few fixtures where you can actually see potentially Manchester City dropping points, because you've got to remember, they don't have to lose this game for the bet to land. They can draw it. So yeah, that's why I'm into this one.
Okay, that's Newcastle double chance of both teams to score 3.0. Seems big price if you do agree with a lot of what Adrian said. I think it was 3-3 2 years ago, early on in the season as well at St. James's Park. So Mark, take it away. You're sort of coming at it from a different angle. Are you expecting a big City response from the weekend?
Maybe. I'm actually just a lot less keen on backing Newcastle at the moment. I've been with them already this season, but I've not been impressed with them at all. I think their luck ran out last week at Fulham, a deserved defeat at the Cottage. It had been coming. They're very fortunate to have 10 points on the board. Thought they were poor in the opener against Southampton, even before the red card. Obviously, that tips the balance in Saints' favour, and Newcastle managed to ride it out. And then they were thankful for really poor finishing from both Wolves and Spurs. Their opponents basically kept the game alive, and they managed to pick up points in those games. Against Bournemouth as well, they got that point, whereas the late Bournemouth goal was ruled out wrongly as well. They could have lost that match too. So, I think they're very fortunate to have 10 points on the board, and they've been pretty poor. And Eddie Howe said so much at the end of the game last week. He was very unimpressed. And, I think it's quite concerning that a few of those key cogs, Adrian's talked about them, Gordon and Isak in particular, but also Bruno Guimaraes, not just picking on him because of the mistake, but he has been notably below par so far this season. That's a concern. And obviously Eddie Howe still seems to be working out his best defence. There's been injuries and suspensions, but that sort of defensive back four seems to be switching and swapping game to game at the minute. They've been sort of struck by lapses of concentration at times as well. So I think overall their sort of setup has been quite poor at the minute. So there's been a lack of control, a lack of flow and rhythm. Not the Newcastle side that I'm used to seeing under Eddie Howe. And even in the raw data, they're down in 16th for shots attempted, but only Brentford have allowed more in the opening 5 match days. And as I say, the schedule's not exactly been mega hard for Newcastle just yet, and they're about to start a really tough run of fixtures too. So that is a concern, as is the head-to-head record. If you like that sort of things, City do have a very good record against Newcastle. But yeah, obviously the absence of Rodri will sort of balance things out a little bit. But I still expect City to get the job done, because they've done so for the most part this season without Rodri. They scored twice or more in every game so far this season. If they do so again here, I think they win the game. And therefore, I'm happy to back them, because I think the 165 price is good. It's just how can you engineer that to something a bit more palatable. So to do that, I've backed Man City to win alongside under 5.5 goals, taking it a step further. But it does get us to 182, which I think is much more in keeping with what I quite like. So obviously got a range of correct scores on side, which include the likes of 3-1, 4-1, or even another 3-2, as we saw back in January. So if there's 6 goals or more in this game, I'm happy to have a loser. It's obviously a bit of a rarity, but happy to be pro City, and hopefully we get 5 goals off you.
Yeah, I did mention the 3-3 draw 2 seasons ago, so that could be in the bin. Manchester City under 5.5 goals, Mark's selection 182. But look, I like the case from Adrian and Newcastle again. I've watched them as well this season. I haven't been impressed, but St. James's Park. So let's lock it in. 3.0, double chance, and both teams to score. And there is disagreement, on the next game as well. So I'm going to have to make a big decision here. Let's take a look at the betting that we have on matchbook.com for Chelsea versus Brighton. Pity this game is 3 o'clock, because this is a good one to watch, I would say. Chelsea 177 favourites to Brighton, who are 4.7. The draw is 4.4. Both teams to score is favoured in this market at 1.6 currently. The Asian handicap line sees Brighton get a 3/4 of a goal head start at even money. The goal line 3.5 unders favoured, quite big in that market at 168. So Mark, I'll send it back to you. I thought the same, to be honest, that this is a tough game to decide, because you've got 2 teams that Brighton started the season well, I guess in patches, but I mean Chelsea, I know it's a small sample size, but they look very, very good, particularly I would say away to West Ham.
I would say, did they look really, really good, or did West Ham look really, really awful? You could easily come out of that question by saying a bit of both, but I thought West Ham were absolutely abysmal. The defending for those goals. I mean, we were texting, weren't we? During the opening half hour, it was comical. I can't even find the right word to describe it. It was so unbelievably bad. But I've opposed Chelsea the last 2 weekends. Felt I was the right thing to do against Bournemouth, despite the result last week. Probably not. I think it was pretty depressing viewing from a West Ham persuasion, but defending was dreadful. So it's difficult to really know how good Chelsea were based on that, because the game was pretty much done and dusted so early on. But I haven't overhauled my assessment on Chelsea so far. I still think they're a work in progress. I still think there's improvements to be made. They might be making sort of crumbs, small inroads, shall we say? But I'm still not completely convinced. I still think this weekend I think we'll get a much better barometer of where Chelsea really are at. And I didn't really want to be involved in this game. It was a game I was quite happy to avoid, but it was on the sheet. So obviously you do a bit of digging, you do a bit of research. And am I going to oppose Chelsea again? Yes, I am. I feel like that meme of Barry from EastEnders singing, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway. Because I've really tried not to. But Brighton +1 is 176. It's basically the same price as Chelsea to win. And obviously we get paid if Brighton avoid defeat here. We get our cash back if Chelsea win by just 1 goal. And I can't ignore that, to be honest. I do think it's possible that Chelsea can give Brighton a bit of a hiding. That's absolutely plausible. But I think the price and the market is doing Brighton a bit of a disservice, because they've already been to the Emirates and put up an incredibly creditable performance, albeit a red card went in their favour. But they're very capable, this team. We've talked about them for a couple of years now. They had a bit of a blip last season when European commitments came on alongside the injuries. But they're looking a bit more like the Brighton of old, really. And they just don't look like this kind of side where the sort of bag of cards are going to fall down anytime soon. So these two teams, I think, are well matched on the underlying metrics so far. And I think Brighton will take note of what Crystal Palace did here at Stamford Bridge and be capable of thwarting them. I don't think Chelsea are invincible. I think the schedule's been relatively kind. And if you do look at those underlying metrics, they've overperformed by 3 whole goals in terms of XG. And they're also displaying an unsustainable shot conversion rate at the minute as well. So I think there is an opportunity to go against them again. And therefore, I'm happy to back Brighton +1. But I can absolutely understand if people want to run away from that bet after me opposing them for the last 2 weeks without success.
Fair play to you, Mark. You stick to your guns, you run the numbers, and you say, the numbers tell me this, let's do it. But Brighton +1.0, 175. Adrian, by and large, I would say you would disagree with that assessment, to a point anyway. Tell me about Chelsea. Yeah, but just on Chelsea, because it's such a small sample size, I mentioned it, so it's important not to overreact to their start, but also important not to underreact, if that makes sense, that if they are playing well, Maresca is building a team that maybe it's time to capitalise now.
Yeah, well, they've been miles better than I thought they'd be. That is for sure. I despise the club policy. I think it's an awful way to run a football club, but he has got a very good squad of players, and at the moment he's keeping a select group happy, and they seem okay. It doesn't seem to be too much disharmony. They've won 8 of their last 10 Premier League matches, counting the back end of last season. No team's won more Premier League points during that period, So you can't really ignore that. And they've put some really good results together. Yeah, West Ham were dismal last week. It was so bad. But at the same time, Chelsea were dynamic, weren't they? They were super quick on the break, could have racked up 6 or 7 goals. There's real pace in that team. Nicholas Jackson, he's on fire. I don't think, we haven't said that very often, but he really is on fire. And if he can maintain this form, he looks decent. And we know about Cole Palmer, how outstanding he is. That's 2 of the front guys sort of kind of sorted. Madueke's had a very strong start as well. Caicedo is looking like the player that used to play for Brighton. So I think there's quite a lot to like about Chelsea. So yeah, I can see where Mark's coming from, because I think the odds are too far apart. I would have Brighton a bit shorter, and Chelsea a little bit longer in the odds. But so I understand his angle. I don't know who's going to win this game. I'm not going to predict who's going to win it. I do think both teams will score. They both have only failed to score once this season. Chelsea failed to score against City. No shame in that. They've looked potent ever since. Brighton only failed to score against Ipswich, and I'm not quite sure how that happened because they had a ridiculous amount of shots. So, and I don't think either defence is impregnable by any stretch of the imagination. So I can absolutely see both teams scoring. I want to pair it with Chelsea to open the scoring, which is obviously something a bit unusual. We don't normally go down that route, but it stood out to me that Chelsea have been fast starters this season. They've scored first in 4 of their 5 games. Obviously, they didn't score against City. So in all the games since, they've got the opening goal. Jackson has got them 3 times. He got one in 2 minutes, I think, at Wolves, 4 minutes at West Ham, 25 minutes in the game in between against Palace. So they've been coming out of the blocks pretty quick. Brighton haven't. They've scored first in 2 of 5. So, yeah, I think it's a fun one to have. Yeah, Chelsea to open the scoring, both teams to score. Let's see how the cards fall in terms of the final score. Because I think it'll be. I think Chelsea will probably win, but I'm not completely sold on it. What I will say is that they did the double over Brighton last season, Chelsea. On both occasions, they had a player sent off. So they really did have the measure of them in 23-24. Can they keep that up? Let's see.
Yeah, I'm actually going to lean to you there on that one again. Adrian, Chelsea score first, and both teams score 2.4. I'm in the Adrian Clarke basket this weekend, so we'll see. Mark will be very quiet on the WhatsApp, but and he outlined brilliantly, Mark, on the Asian handicap lines. Those are very, very competitively priced on Matchbook. He's gone for Brighton plus 1.0 at 175. Let's move on to Monday night football, and there is agreement here, which is great. Bournemouth 1.7 favours to Southampton 5.4. Underdogs. The draw is available at 4.3. Expecting goals here, both teams to score, yes. Favoured at around 1.5, 1.6-ish. And the Asian handicap lines, these Southampton get a 1-goal head start, and the goal line high enough at 3.5. Back to you, Adrian, on this. I guess from a Southampton perspective, maybe good to start with them just because we don't get to cover them as much as you'd like, maybe newly promoted sides. You've followed this team a lot in the EFL. How have you found their start to the Premier League?
Yeah, it's a bit underwhelming. It's been tough going for them, hasn't it? Yeah, they don't have proven Premier League goal scorers. That's the issue. Adam Armstrong was their talisman in the Championship. He's really had a sniff. Cameron Archer's playing up top at the moment, and good talent, of course, but will miss chances as he did against Manchester United when they were on top in that game. I mean, they started really well, didn't they, against United in that game, and then they sort of faded away. The young boy Tyler Dibbling looks decent. He looks like a real hot prospect. So he's one to kind of keep your eye on at Southampton. But yeah, I think at both ends of the pitch, they're going to struggle this season. Yeah, I mean, I'll leave Mark to do the numbers. I kind of followed him in, really. He put this on the sheet, and I saw it, and I was like, yeah, that feels like a no-brainer to me. Bournemouth and under 4.5 goals. Primarily, the reason is that the Bournemouth are 1.7 to win this game. Yeah, it's 2.26 for Bournemouth to win and under 4.5 goals, which I think is a heck of a jump. And I'm not sure that jump will last. So it might be one of those, if you fancy Bournemouth, to get on board. You know, the Cherries have failed to score in their last 2 games, but I think surely they'll register here. They're kind of due a home win. They had that controversial 1-1 draw with Newcastle, then lost late on against Chelsea. 2 tough home games. Southampton aren't in that class, and I think that Semenyo, Evan Nielsen, and co can do enough here to get the job done. I think tactically as well, Bournemouth being such an amazing pressing team, are nightmare opponents potentially for Russell Martin, who won't change. We know that they will play out from the back. They'll take risks, and just think Iraola and Bournemouth up against slightly naive Southampton can have some joy with turnovers. So yeah, look, yeah, Southampton are not going to score more than 1 goal in this game, in my opinion, and Bournemouth are more than capable of getting 2 or 3 for me. So yeah, Bournemouth and under 4.5.
Okay, yeah, Mark, seems a bit of a jump, 2.26 from 1.7.
It is. I actually think the 1.7 on Bournemouth just to win is bigger than I had it down as, at least. But yeah, the leap to 2.26 is definitely the one that gets my vote. Bournemouth have had bit of a tough schedule, especially in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, started well at Anfield, and then as soon as the goal went in, they kind of collapsed. It was some poor defending in that first half, but they still managed 19 shots at Anfield, and
Yeah.
a lot of them were non-threatening shots. But still, it's the most recorded by an away team in the Premier League in the Opta era, which is a hell of a feat, to be fair. And I do think they have been better than their 5-point tally so far this season. Adrian referenced the home game against Chelsea, where they put on a lot of pressure on the Blues, created plenty of opportunities, weren't able to get over the line there. But yeah, this is much more forgiving for them. Although Southampton, I think, have also underachieved, actually. Lost the points late on against Ipswich, should have got something at Newcastle on match day 1, started so well against United. But as he says, ultimately, they're getting punished for their lack of quality in both boxes. And that's why I think I have to go against them here, because I don't want to parrot the same old stuff. But their open play performances have actually been all right for the most part. They're just falling down in terms of both boxes. And also their set-piece defending has been dreadful. They've already conceded 4 goals from corners and 5 from set pieces overall. And if you're a newly promoted club trying to sort of forage away in the top flight, you've got to be better from dead ball situations than that. So I guess on the plus side, Tyler Dibbing's been brilliant. Changed the game against Forest from the bench despite the defeat, gave Diego Dallo nightmares in that first half against United, and was the best player on the pitch against Ipswich last week too. So there is hope from Southampton, from an unlikely source, but I think you need a bit more inspiration and a bit more ability in both boxes to sort of stand up to the Premier League challenge. And I just think Bournemouth, this will be their moment to flex their muscles and show that they are the kings down on the south coast right now, and or at least that part of the south coast. So happy to back them to win this game. 6 of the combined 10 games involving these two teams have gone under 2.5. 8 of those 10 have gone under 3.5, and the only over 4.5 goals game was Bournemouth's bonkers match away at Everton at Goodison Park. So happy to sort of rule that one out and rely on this game being relatively low scoring. So Bournemouth and under 4.5 gets you the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1 and 3-1 onside.
Okay, let's do it. Team Steam, Bournemouth under 4.5 goals, 2.26. We have a full recap available on Matchbook Insights. Just search Matchbook Insights or search insights.matchbook.com for a full recap from Thursday late afternoon, evening. Let's move on to EFL and any other bets here. And Adrian, we'll start with you in your full house, I think, on the EFL picks last week. So no pressure this week.
Yeah, slow start of the season on the EFL, but yeah, we've been coming good last couple of weeks. I got an interesting double here. There are 2 fixtures that really stand out on the League One card as dull. They're Wigan and Exeter, and Stevenage against Charlton. It's a simple numbers game, really. Just so you've got Wigan against Exeter. So Wigan matches average 1.57 so far this season. That's the second lowest. Exeter's average 2.33, which is the 6th lowest. Stevenage Charlton's even better. Stevenage matches average 1.43, the lowest by some distance. And Charlton, their opponents, their games average 1.71 goals per game this season, which is the 3rd lowest. So it's first v 3rd, second v 6th in terms of the unders. How many games have gone under? Well, 70% of their combined games have gone under 2.5 so far this season. 6 for Charlton, 5 apiece for Stevenage and Wigan. So yeah, it just feels like we're going to get 2 real grinds. I think Wigan have had 2 back-to-back goalless draws. Stevenage, they're rarely involved in games that get away. And I've watched Charlton, and Charlton are a very direct side, but they're built basically around defensive solidity. So unfortunately, under 2.5 is very short for both of these games. But if you lump them together as a double, it comes out 2.9, which is much more palatable. So it might be a little fun one to chase if you can stomach back in the unders. Yeah, well, it's a favourite of mine. I think League One in general has been low scoring so far this season. The average is definitely under 2.5.
Okay, yeah. If you're out and about and you can't really follow the football, that could be a fun one to cheer on, and maybe just check the results versus maybe having your notifications, flash score, live score notifications on. Second games, League Two, Adrian, second selection here. League Two, and Port Vale to beat Swindon.
Yeah, it's almost even money for Port Vale to beat Swindon, and I think that represents good value. Swindon are having a bit of a stinker this season. They've won 1 in 7. Really struggling under Mark Kennedy. I suspect Kennedy is under a little bit of pressure In fairness, like the XG does say that they should have let in 4 less goals than they have. So maybe they haven't been quite as bad at the back as the data suggests. And actually on the road, they've been relatively solid, but they don't score very many goals at all, Swindon. And that's a problem, I think, away to a Port Vale team that have got guys that are in form. Jaden Stockley's got 3 already. Ethan Chislett has got 3 goals already. Ben Garrity is a terrific goal-scoring midfielder. He's got a couple. There's a guy called Laurent Talage, who's a Swiss player. He's got 4 assists already. And they're a seriously strong set-piece team. Port Vale, 4 set-piece goals already this season. And what's one of Swindon's big Achilles heels? It is defending set pieces. I think they've let in 3 already. So I just look at this. Quite a free scoring Port Vale side against, a shot-shy Swindon who just haven't got going. And I think this looks like a home win to me. So I was quite surprised to see Port Vale at the price they are. They've had a great September. They won at Newport. They beat Chesterfield, a really good side at home. And then last week, they were actually trailing to Accrington. Kind of got bullied out of the game. But Darren Moore changed it, took off a couple of the sort of more fragile players, brought on some muscle, and they found their way back into the game and got a 2-2 draw. So I think that will give them the momentum to claim a home win here against a pretty poor Swindon team this season. 1.97 on Port Vale.
Okay, let's do it. Port Vale, home to Swindon, 197. The under 2.5 double, 2.9, which is Stevenage versus Charlton and Wigan versus Exeter. Mark, you went 2-1 on those any other bets which were around the globe, including Sligo Rovers going 1-0 down to Dundalk. That was nervous times, but they got the job done. Take it away with 2 selections in your any other bets here.
Yeah, we'll start in League 2. There's a top of the table clash, early season top of the table clash between Gillingham and Barrow at Priestfield Stadium. I expecting this to be a tight tussle between 2 very defensive sides, or very capable defensive sides. If you look at the 2 teams' records so far this season and combine the records, they played 14 League 2 matches, conceding just 5 goals. That's 5 goals conceded in over 21 hours of football. Incredible effort, 9 clean sheets in that 14-game sample as well. I expect defences to be on top yet again. If you look at the sort of raw goal numbers, 8 of those aforementioned 14 matches had a maximum of 1 goal. And so no real surprise to see under 2.5 goals, a little bit too short to support. But what I am surprised about is the fact you can back both teams to score no as the outsider in that market at 193. Obviously, the market is already expecting a low-scoring game with unders being so short. So why is BTTS no, the outsider of the 2? Doesn't really. I don't really understand that, to be honest. You're only ruling out the 1-1 here. And you look at Barrow's 7 matches so far, just an XG output of 1.52. That's Barrow for and against combined, 1.52 per game average. And Gillingham, despite topping the table, are averaging just 1.11 XG per game on their own. So 9 of those 14 matches have seen these 2 teams score a maximum of 1 goal themselves. So expecting it to be quite tight, and obviously there's a little bit more needle perhaps in the dugout with Stephen Clements, Barrow manager, going back to Gillingham, who sacked him last season. So I'm sure he'll be very keen to avoid defeat in that match, and Barrow will be battening down the hatches in what could be quite a physical match. And then on to Denmark, where the league leaders Midtjylland are 6-3-0 in terms of wins, draws and losses so far this season. 19 goals scored in those 9 games. They're 4 from 4 on home soil, scoring at least twice in each. Midweek, they played Hoffenheim in the Europa League. They absolutely dominated them in a really exciting, entertaining end-to-end match, which featured an XG total close to 4. They only managed a 1-1 draw. They created the lion's share of the best chances. But back to domestic duties on Sunday, I think it is, against Viborg. Viborg have actually been one of the most entertaining sides in Denmark so far, despite sitting in mid-table. They're the 2nd top goal scorers with 20 in 9. They've scored in every game. They've scored at least twice in 6 of those. They've already scored against Nordsjælland, Copenhagen and Brøndby. So they've shown they can mix it with the big boys. But they've also shipped 17 goals and conceded multiple goals in 6 of those 9 as well. So I'm not expecting them to come out on top if this game escalates into a bit of a gun battle. So in about Midtjylland to win alongside both teams to score, which comes in at 2.88. Despite leading the table, Midtjylland have actually only kept 2 clean sheets in 9 domestic matches so far this season. They might be a little bit weary after the midweek travails, but I still expect them to get the job done at home soil. BTTS has banked in 14 of these two teams combined 18 games this season, and the home side are a short price favourite. So I really like the boost on them to win on the nose, to win alongside BTTS at 288.
That's both teams to score now, Gideon versus Barrow Midtjylland, and both teams to score, yes, 288. And for your long shots, Mark, you're going to double Midtjylland and both teams to score with Barcelona and both teams to score. So yeah, that'll come out at a nice price.
Yeah, it comes in at 8.26. Barcelona BTTS to win, and BTTS at Osasuna. Yeah, they've made an exceptional start under Hansi Flick. They're 7 from 7 in La Liga. Weren't quite at their best on Wednesday night, beating Getafe 1-0 at home, but Getafe know how to make life tough. But their last two away trips in La Liga, they smashed Villarreal 5-1 and demolished Girona 4-1 as well away from home. Lewandowski's already scored 7 goals this season. Rafinha is scoring and creating. Yamal is doing the same. He did actually pick up a bit of a knock late on, so he might be rested, but they've got so much firepower in that side at the minute. They're creating and scoring and converting pretty routinely, but injuries are biting. Ter Stegen's out long term. They're still looking for a new goalkeeper to come into the club, but De Jong's out, Cavi's out, Araujo's out as well, and they have conceded all bar 2 of their league and cup matches this season as well. But Osasuna at El Sadar know how to pack a bit of a punch. They've scored in all 4 home games this season, and they scored 7 goals at home to Real Madrid, Barca and Girona last season, the top 3. So they know where the back of the net is in Pamplona. So happy to back them to score in defeat. So Barca to win and both teams to score alongside Midtjylland. The same bet, 8.26.
Okay, I hit the crossbar last week with Everton and both teams to score. Let's see, can we sneak a long shot in on Adrian? Interested with this one. So we had a lot of pro Everton bias on the podcast last week, and well founded, I would say. So we're going against them this week here.
I didn't have Everton bias. I didn't go for Everton. Look, I just think it will come good for Palace. I know that they were second best against Manchester United, and I know that they haven't really got going yet. I think they've made more changes to their starting 11 than any other team so far, which is unlike Oliver Glasner, who seemed to have a really settled group last year. He just hasn't quite decided on the right formula. And even in the game against United, I'm really surprised at some of his subs, taking off Mateta and Wharton early doors, taking off Nketiah in the second half when I thought he was looking sharp. So, yeah, he's making some odd decisions, but I do feel that it will come for Palace. I still think they're a really good team. And I love the strike force. Mateta, his record in 2024 is phenomenal. Eze is just a wonderful talent. He's been involved in 30 attempts already. He's created 10 chances. He's had 20 shots himself, Eze. He's class. And I just think that front three with Nketiah in there as well can cause Everton problems. Everton, of course, letting 3 at home to Brighton, letting 3 at home to Bournemouth. And that is bound to sap your confidence a little bit. So can I see Palace going to Goodison and getting a result? I can. I actually can. Everton, for what it's worth, are creating chances. We know that. And they've missed quite a few. And at home in that game against Bournemouth, they were really good for long periods. So, I could see them breaching Crystal Palace. Of course I could. Are they going to be all right, Crystal Palace? First time outside London since the start of this season. How's the jet lag going to be for Palace, of course? But I think, on a serious note, I think they're going to be absolutely fine. Goodison holds no fear, I don't think, for anyone at the moment. And even though there's a feel-good factor with the proposed takeover looking likely, Palace do have the threats, I think, and the type of forwards that could undo what's quite an aging Everton defence. Eze sharp, and Nketiah is quick, makes great runs. Mateta, strong, powerful. I think those 3 can actually inflict a bit of damage on Everton here. So I'm going to back them, and I'm going to go with both teams to score because I think that neither defence is yet set. So, good game in prospect. 5.2 on Palace. BTTS.
Yeah, open game could go either way. So yeah, juicy price if you do think Palace can sneak a result and both teams score 5.2. Best podcast bets time, and we went 2-0 here last weekend. Mark, you had Everton double chance and over 0.5 goals away to Leicester. Shows the power of the bet builder, I would say, Mark. It is a bet you've covered earlier on, at least the first bit of it, but give us the reasons again, and particularly on the over 2.5 goals element of it.
Yeah, it's a slight tweak on the long shot. It's Barcelona to win and over 2.5 goals, which comes in at 2.06 away at Osasuna. Bar a few key injuries, it's very difficult to dismiss Barcelona right now. They're in thrilling form in forward areas, 17 goals in the last 4 La Liga games. As I mentioned, 5-1 and 4-1 away wins are good teams like Villarreal and Girona. And El Sadar can be a difficult place to go for away sides in La Liga, but Barcelona should go there and be able to score at least twice, possibly more. They could easily cover this goal line themselves, but ultimately, if you go back to the start of last season, 17 of their 23 away league games have seen both sides score, and I absolutely believe Osasuna can contribute to the scoring here. They've got a good record at home, and they'll fancy their chances too, but ultimately, I expect the best team to come out on top. So Barca to make it 8 from 8 in a game featuring 3 goals or more is 2.06.
And Adrian, over to you. It's Sheffield Wednesday versus West Brom here. So again, we haven't spoken about yet, and it's going to be your best bet on the card of the weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to dip into the old bet builder again. This one, I'm going to back West Bromwich Albion, double chance at Hillsborough, and pair it with under 3.5 goals. Yeah, I like this bet. West Brom are top of the Championship. They've got off to an absolutely brilliant start. 5 wins in the draw, unbeaten. Very settled team. Very settled. Carlos Corberán, he's not having to make any changes really. They're really solid at the back, as any Corberán team is well organised. We know that, and it's really clicking for them in that regard. But they're scoring goals. Josh Maja is the division's leading marksman at the moment. He's got 6 already, but he's not the only one that can score goals for West Bromwich Albion. They look the real deal. They look like a side that can absolutely be in and around the playoff picture. I'm not sure about automatic promotion, but they look good at both ends of the pitch, and they're never going to give you that many chances. West Bromwich Albion, home or away. So yeah, away from home, perfect record so far from the Baggies, 3 from 3. They've won at QPR, they've won at Stoke, they've won at Pompey. 4 clean sheets from 6 games as well overall. Tells a story. Wednesday, not in good form. They did beat Plymouth on the opening day. Since then, 4 losses and 1 draw. Well beaten by Sunderland, Leeds and Millwall. It's a bit closer last time out against Luton. But they've let in 12 goals in their last 5 games Wednesday. It's not going well for them. And they're playing at the moment the division's strongest team. So for me, yeah, I want to back West Brom here at Hillsborough against an Owls team low on confidence, and I'll go under 3.5 because I don't think West Brom matches tend to escalate too much at all. So yeah, that comes in at 1.86. I'm confident.
Okay, West Brom double chance under 3.5 goals, and last week you had both teams to score in Harrogate and Crewe and Harrogate as well, so that came in too. So hoping for more of the same from Mark and Adrian. My thanks to them both. We'll be back on Monday to preview match day 2 of the Champions League as the season ramps up here, and then back for the Premier League podcast on Thursday, insights.matchbook.com. Full recap. Don't forget the £5 money back special on Manchester United versus Tottenham. Again, full recap on Matchbook Insights, and do hit that like button, follow and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Until then, we will chat to you on Monday. Enjoy the weekend's football. Bye-bye.